welcome back to Beyond 50 Skin. My name is Cindy. So glad to have you here today. We are going to talk everything dermaplaning. You may have seen some videos out there, you may have seen people's protocols for dermaplaning, but I guarantee you, if you stay tuned to today's video, you're going to learn something new about dermaplaning if you've been doing it for years. And if you've never dermaplaned, I'm going to explain it from A to Z, talk about pros, talk about cons, talk about how to. So stay tuned and we're going to jump right into this. So I always get so excited that I forget to do the housekeeping at the beginning of the video, but this week I have some exciting news. I want to tell you that I've started a blog. It's basically a complement to my YouTube channel, but I will be updating the blog a little more often than I do YouTube's, because YouTube's are pretty static. You can't really update the information, or you can, but it's really hard to get back in there and add footage. So the blog will be sort of an up-to-date reference for you on all the different topics that we talk about here on YouTube. So definitely check that out. It's beyond50skin.com, and I hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment in the posts and let me know when you've visited. I'd love to see my YouTube subscribers jump on over there and check it out. Also, I started an Instagram page with a little bit of different tweaks on the information that I put here on YouTube, so you might want to check that out. And let's see, what else? Oh, timestamps are always down below. I always forget to mention that, but most people here on YouTube know about the timestamps, so you can jump around within the content. And product links. I have quick links down below where you can just jump to the products by either by post, by the YouTube that you're watching, or just by different sort of beauty topics or makeup topics or skincare topics. My current faves on moisturizers or my current serums that I'm using, so you can jump around on the quick links down below. So I just wanted to let you know about that because there's so much information on the lower deck or the description area that I would be remiss in not telling you. So a lot of people ask, how in the world do you get there? So on a desktop, it says under the title, it will say show more, and you just click that and all kinds of great information like my references and all the links and everything will be down there. And the other way you can do it when you're on your mobile is there's a little like upside down like V shaped, and you just tap on it. It's so tiny you can easily miss it, but it's kind of to the right of the title and description too. So two easy ways to get to all the information down below, and most channels have amazing content down there that you don't want to miss, especially if you're really into the topic. So let's jump right into today's topic, which is dermaplaning. Now, a lot of people dermaplane. It's become unbelievably popular over the last 3 years. Now, back in the dark ages when I was doing cosmetology, I did skincare, and I had a little business that I did long ago, like 15-20 years ago, and it was all about waxing, and really we didn't have much information on dermaplaning. But now, after updating my cosmetology license, since a big move and all kinds of life changes, I went back to classes and got some continuing ed, and it's all the rage is dermaplaning. But I was like, wow, it really kind of freaked me out, taking a scalpel to someone's face. And you might be freaked out too if you've never done it or you're considering it. You always want to double think these more aggressive forms of medical aesthetic procedures or more aggressive type exfoliation procedures before jumping in. And I really understand those people who have reservations about it, and I really am fine with people who have a regular dermaplaning routine and they've got it down. But I guarantee you that today's video is going to teach you a little something about the routine that you've been doing and maybe how you want to tweak it, or show you some pros and cons, help you make a decision whether you want to even investigate dermaplaning or it's maybe just not for you. But I'm going to show both sides of dermaplaning and do a how-to at the end, do a little demo, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, so stay tuned and let's just jump right into it. Okay, on to dermaplaning. What is it? What isn't it? Dermaplaning is a form of exfoliation. Yes, it will remove the vellus hair, but it is typically considered an exfoliation procedure, and you need to approach it with the end goal in mind. Do you need more exfoliation? Are you just looking for a little bit of getting rid of the vellus or lanugo hair on your cheeks? And if you kind of approach it with that idea, you know, why am I doing this? Instead of just jumping into it, okay, I'm just going to shave my face, I think that will give you a better outcome. As always, approach your more aggressive medical aesthetic type facial procedures with the end in mind, and make a plan and make a goal. So what is dermaplaning? It is basically basically shaving your face, but it is more than that. It is a deep exfoliation, especially if you go to a medical esthetician or an esthetician with extra training, or you go to your dermatologist. They are going to actually take a scalpel to your face and not just shave your face, but do a very deep exfoliation. I know you can get the scalpels online. I know they're available, but I caution you to take a step back, look at the pros and cons before you just jump right into it and get a scalpel and start dermaplaning your face. And I'm going to tell you why. So what will dermaplaning do? Number one, it will exfoliate your face. It will bring you more luminosity. You're going to be exfoliating a lot of dead skin cells off, and your face will appear brighter. Your makeup and your sunscreen will go on so smooth, and your face will feel like velvet. It will be just like a sensation that you've never had before. And you will probably have better product penetration for your serums, and even your moisturizer will probably just, your skin will just soak it right up. But I also want to tell you what it won't do, so that you really understand before you decide to do it what it will not achieve. A lot of times they say, oh, it's going to help reduce your fine lines. No, it's not going to help reduce your fine lines. Or it's going to help clarify your pigmentation. You're going to have a reduction of pigmentation. That's a little bit of a nuanced answer. You will have possibly a reduction in the visual appearance of your pigmentation because you're removing some of the dead skin cells, and it may appear that your pigmentation has gotten lighter, but you're really just exfoliating off the epidermal loose skin, the loose skin cells on your epidermis. Pigment is really much deeper into the deeper layers of the tissues, so you will not have true lightening of hyperpigmentation if you decide to do dermaplaning. Let's consider who maybe shouldn't do dermaplaning. If you have active acne lesions and you don't have your acne under control, I highly recommend waiting till everything is calmed down before you attempt any kind of dermaplaning or face shaving. You also, if you have KP, the raised bumps, keratosis pilaris, sometimes people get it in their cheek area, I would highly recommend probably double thinking that before you start dermaplaning. And rosacea is a toss-up. If you're seeing your dermatologist and you're getting dermaplaning through your dermatologist, then work that out with them. But I'm highly cautious. Anybody with rosacea, I would say it's kind of maybe a stop and rethink. And also, if you just have highly reactive skin, if your skin is really sensitive, like I always say, you are your skin's best expert. If you have highly sensitive skin, this is going to irritate your skin. Also, if you use Retin-A on a regular basis, if you use deep exfoliation on a regular basis, chemical exfoliations, you will either, number one, want to take a break before you do this, or definitely think twice, because you're already exfoliating your face. Do you really need dermaplaning? Maybe you're getting enough exfoliation. Really, the goal of dermaplaning is a deep exfoliation. Yes, the benefit is that you also get some lovely removal of your hair, the vellus hair, but really the ultimate purpose of traditional dermaplaning is a deep exfoliation. I'm talking about when you go to an esthetician who has advanced training, or you go to your dermatologist and they actually take a 10-blade scalpel to your face and remove the top layer of dead skin. And the extra benefit is your lanugo hair is removed too. So you really have to think about the end in mind. Are you already exfoliating enough? Do I need more? Do you have rosacea? Do you have acne? Do you have KP? And do you really want to have to do this as an upkeep? Because if you start doing this, the hair will grow back and you will have to continue to do it. So you have to think, well, do I want the maintenance, or do I want to continue to go and pay for having my dermaplaning done? So you have to kind of balance the cost and the benefit before you jump right into dermaplaning. So those are some pros and some cons and some contraindications before you get started. Let's talk about people who are fearful of dermaplaning but would really like to do it and may really benefit from it. Okay, so fears. People are afraid that the hair will grow back darker. I, in my experience, have not seen that, either from doing waxing for people or doing some tweezing for people when I was in the clinic. I have not seen that, but people do report that the hair has grown back darker. What I think may be happening, and this is just my own speculation, is that you have the hair on your face and you've had it for a while and you've been out in the sun, you've put products in it, and it could be lighter because it's somewhat bleached. perhaps that's what's going on, and when it grows back, it's new, fresh hair that has never had exposure to any of your products that might be lightening products or the sun. So that's just my own speculation. I'm not sure that that's true, but you will have hair that grows back blunt, and that may feel like it's thicker, like you will have, as it grows in, stubble, right, on the sides of your face. And a lot of people choose to do shaving or dermaplaning every day to reduce the sensation of that stubble. Now, I'm not recommending that. Typically, if you're having deep dermaplaning, then it's recommended to have it done every 4 to 6 weeks. But some people do dermaplane on a more regular basis if their skin can tolerate it. Is it safe? If you're using the correct procedures and you're following the correct protocol, or you're seeking a licensed professional, then yes, it is safe. Are there risks? Yes, you can abrade your skin. Either you or the person providing the service could nick you. It's possible, and this happens. So you have to be prepared for the fact that you may have a nick and scratches in your skin. And also, if you have any of the contraindications or you're a heavy exfoliator, you do heavy exfoliation anyway, you could have redness, irritation, some micro tears. I mean, we are disturbing the microbiome of our face, and we have to really consider that before we jump into this type of a procedure. Okay, so after reviewing the pros and cons and the contraindications, you're kind of like, whoa, let me double think this. Well, that's what I really wanted to address. We need to think about this first before we just jump into it, right? So there are other options. If you're on the contraindications list and you still want sort of to get rid of some of this vellus hair, there are other options. You can choose laser hair reduction or electrolysis, which is a more permanent form of hair removal. You can check out my card up here, I'll link it, and go more into depth on both of those, and in addition to IPL, which can help with hair reduction, in an earlier video. So check that out, and that might be an option for you. Also, if it's just the color of the hair that's bothering you, you can use some bleaching creams and just lighten the hair. That could work for you. Or if you're on a really intense exfoliating treatment, maybe you don't even need dermaplaning. Your Retin-A or your chemical exfoliants or your gentle scrubs that you're using, hopefully not, very gentle, are enough exfoliation for you, and you're like, already I'm on a really great exfoliation treatment or procedure protocol. I don't really need this. So hopefully I've given you enough information to make a really good decision, and now I'm going to show you, if you've decided to do dermaplaning, how to do it and how to do it safely. So if I haven't fully talked to you about dermaplaning yet, let's talk about how to do it safely and talk about a protocol so that you can have the best outcome if you decide to do it at home. The other option, of course, is seeking out a professional to do an in-office procedure. Those typically run $100 to $200 per visit, so that might not be something you want to keep up on an ongoing basis, but it might be something you want to try if you're going to be doing it at home and you just want to have someone go through the protocol and their routine with you hands-on. I always think that's a really great option. If you want to DIY stuff at home and you don't feel like you're very comfortable doing it, book an in-office procedure first. Explain to your practitioner that this is what you want to be doing at home, and if you could please teach me a little bit about how to do it safely and what your protocol is, what tools that they like to use. I think that's an awesome way to go about doing something like this that's a little bit more of an aggressive treatment at home. So let's jump into doing an at-home dermaplaning safely, and I'm going to show you the protocol that I use, and also I'm going to show you a couple of the dermaplaning tools that I recommend and that I don't recommend. So we're getting ready for the dermaplaning protocol, but I wanted just to call out a few things that we need to think about beforehand. 50% of a dermaplaning session is preparation, and the other 50% is technique. So make sure you have all your supplies gathered, the kids aren't running around under your feet, the dog isn't racing around, and your partner knows that you need a few moments to yourself. So honestly, I taped this for you guys 3 weeks ago, and it went into the editing ether. So I'm retaping this. I had to wait for my hair to grow out, but it's definitely proof in the pudding that my hair grew back the same way that it was before. The vellus hair is still soft. It's the same color, so I had no changes at all in my hair growth after my dermaplaning session a few weeks ago. But I'm retaping it now for you. I'm going to go through the whole protocol, and like I said, 50% is preparation and 50% is technique. So you want to gather all your supplies. I have already cleansed with my CeraVe SA cleanser. Now you want to make sure that if you're doing this in an evening routine and you're doing a double cleanse, that you don't have an oil cleanser that you're using. You want to make sure that you're maybe using a micellar water for your first cleanse and then coming in with either an SA cleanser or a glycolic cleanser. Most dermaplaning sessions sort of begin with a glycolic cleanser. It tends to degrease the skin, and the reason we're degreasing the skin is that we don't have catch on our skin and get nicks when we're dermaplaning. And it also helps exfoliate a little bit. It loosens up those keratin bonds between those dead skin cells and does a little bit of exfoliating. So you definitely want to get cleansed up with an appropriate cleanser, and you want to make sure that you've prepared by grabbing some alcohol, because that's going to be our next step. Then your dermaplaning tool of choice. I'm going to go through several that I have here and tell you which one that I prefer. And you also want to pick up a hydrating step. A high molecular weight hyaluronic acid is always nice. You also can add in a mask, an enzyme mask, after you exfoliate, but you want to make sure everything that you're using is fragrance-free, really gentle, geared toward hydrating and repairing the skin barrier. And the last step, you're going to want to use a moisturizer. I've chosen the Aveeno Restore and Calm, has some oat in it, really calming. And then of course the very last step is your SPF. All right, so let's get started. You've gotten the tool of choice, you've got all your supplies with you. I've already cleansed, so let's get going with the second step, which is degreasing with alcohol. You can either use alcohol, which is what I have on hand, and I also have witch hazel. I prefer alcohol. It really dries down the skin, and again, we're drying down the skin so that we don't have any catch. And so we're degreasing the skin with a bit of alcohol so that your blade will glide over your skin and slough off those dead skin cells as opposed to catch. So now let's review the various tools that you can use for dermaplaning. It's really important that you make the correct selection. I'm going to go through a few that I've purchased, and I'm going to tell you which one I like the best. Now, when I was learning dermaplaning during my classes, we used a scalpel. The reason I don't think an at-home dermaplaning session requires a scalpel is, number one, if you're not a professional, using a scalpel can be really dangerous. It is basically a surgical blade. You can buy them off the internet. I know that they're very easy to buy. They're really not that expensive. So there's really no barrier to purchasing a scalpel. But I honestly think that if you're going to do a dermaplaning session with a scalpel and get, that is the deepest exfoliation that you can get, but it also is the most dangerous and highest potential for getting a nick and a cut and having a bad outcome. So if you're determined to do that, then I honestly think that you should book a session with a professional who knows their stuff and can go through the whole protocol and routine using the scalpel, give you the exact techniques, show you the scalpel that they would recommend. You can get 10 blades off the internet, but that is not the one you want. You want a 10R with a rounded tip. I'll show you a picture here of a 10 blade that is not a 10R blade, and it has a very sharp point, and you could run into some problems. So definitely book a dermaplaning session with a professional if you're determined to use a scalpel. But what I recommend for a dermaplaning session at home is getting a blade that has a guard on it. Now you can buy the little tinkles. Or the Schick or tinkles. Now I don't really like these particular blades because they end up doing a lot of scratching and not a lot of exfoliation. And you kind of get what you pay for when you're buying a blade for dermaplaning with a guard. And I think the Sephora also, their particular blade has a nice guard, but it also is a little too, it sort of ends up scratching the skin as opposed to gliding over the skin. So I don't really recommend the Sephora blade either. And the one that I actually really did end up liking is the Flawless. This blade definitely has a guard, but it scratches a lot less, and it also is really nice because it's backlit, so you can really see what you're doing. You can catch all the baby fine hairs. So I really like the Flawless. It's not that expensive, and it does a good job. And the next one that I've found that I really like even better is Stacked. This is definitely a pricier option. The guard is a little bit less on it, but it still has a guard, and you get a better exfoliation with this blade. The only downside, or the only negative, when I was reading the materials that came with it, is they say you can keep this blade for a month, and I wouldn't recommend that. I think that this should be disposed of after 1 or 2 uses. Actually, all your blades should be either switched out, you can change the blades on the end, you can get refills, after 1 or 2 uses. And I'll talk about storing your blade and cleaning your blade at the end of the session. But I don't recommend keeping your blades for a month. So that is the only kind of negative. But I really like the stack blade. It gives a nice close dermaplane, and it's a great at-home option. You can also buy the Miss Gorgeous blades, but those are basically the same as a scalpel. So I don't recommend those for an at-home dermaplaning session. So I've washed my skin, I've degreased my skin. Now the second thing is how I go about handling the blade. So I'm going to use the stacked blade. I like to start at the forehead, and I like to go down in a downward motion. Some people come up, but the risk that you have with an upward stroke is that you can get more irritation. You will definitely get a closer exfoliation, but you can get more irritation, and you can have kind of some razor burn, more potential for razor burn. So when I'm doing a dermaplaning session, I always go down. I go down at a 45-degree angle in short feather strokes, and I particularly like to start at the forehead. I don't do between the brow area. I think it gives sort of, I like a more natural brow area, so I stay away from my brows. I do over the lip, and I also used a little tape because I have a haircut, so I used basically some dress tape to kind of tape up my hairs under my little hoodie here, so that my little wispy hairs, I don't accidentally shave those off. So definitely you need to prepare for a dermaplaning session with all your tools in place and all your supplies in place. So let's get started. I'm going to start in my forehead and come down in just short feather strokes, holding my skin taut and holding the blade at a 45-degree angle on the way down. You'll make funny faces as you do this, and that's okay. And the reason I don't think a scalpel is appropriate, pull up over the chin so that you don't have to worry about the chin bone, because you can get nicks around the chin bone. So just pull your skin up, kind of coming down at a 45-degree angle. So the reason I don't like using, another reason I don't think it's appropriate to use a scalpel for at home, even though I've been trained, I still don't use a full, even though I've been trained, I don't use a scalpel at home, and here's the reason. When someone's doing a facial for you, or a dermaplaning session, you're on your back in supine, and they can move around your head in all the different angles. There is no way, no matter how many mirrors you set up around you, that you can see the side of your face at an appropriate angle to avoid an accident. So I always recommend doing a guarded blade at an at-home session for that reason. You just can't get the angle with and the vision that you need for an appropriate use of a scalpel. So that's another reason, or a plug for not using a scalpel in an at-home session. So I'm going to come around my nose. I don't have a lot of hair in my upper cheek, so just a little bit of feathering, pulling my skin taut again. And I do have quite a bit of hair over the lip, so I roll down, pulling up again under the chin, and the whole idea is taut skin and 45-degree angle. And that scratching noise is okay. That's what you're going to hear. And like I said, I don't have a ton of hair this time because it's only been about 3 weeks. Some people dermaplane every day or every other day. That would be too much exfoliation for my skin, especially since I use Tret. So let's talk about, and you can see all the hairs and the skin that I'm getting off. So let's talk about whether you really should dermaplane or not. If you have an excellent exfoliating routine, you don't have a lot of facial hair that you want to get rid of, or the peach fuzz that you're interested in getting rid of, there's really no reason to dermaplane, because the point is exfoliation and removing peach fuzz. If you have a great exfoliation routine, you're using some acids a couple times a week, and you're using your tretinoin a few times a week, or even, you know, every other night or nightly, you don't really necessarily need to dermaplane. You may already have enough exfoliation. So don't think that this is a routine that you have to kind of fit in along your particular skincare routine. It's kind of an extra and, you know, not necessary in all cases. Okay. So like I said, I didn't have a ton of hair and skin to get off this week because it's only been 3 weeks. Now the next step is to just rinse with tepid water, and you don't want too hot, you don't want too cold. The whole goal is not to irritate our skin. And after this, we're thinking, what are we thinking? We're thinking hydrate and protect. So for my hydrating step, you can think of 2 different things. You can think of sort of a hydrating enzyme mask, and I'll list some down below that you might enjoy. But right now, the only enzyme mask I have right now has 2. So you're all done dermaplaning. You want to get some alcohol, clean off your blade, let that dry before you put it back in the drawer, cap it up and put it back in the drawer. Now at this point, it's all about hydrating and barrier repair. So at this point, you could come in with an enzyme mask, a very gentle, not fragrance-free enzyme mask. The enzyme mask that I have right now has fragrance in it, so I'm not going to be using that today. I'm just going to be coming in with some hydrating serum by Medicaid. It's a high molecular weight hyaluronic acid serum. You want to make sure that you don't get the low molecular weight hyaluronic acid serum for this stage, because that'll penetrate too deep in your skin and give too much irritation. Our whole goal is barrier repair and no irritation. So I'm going to put on my Medicaid serum, and then I'm going to think about a nice calming and soothing moisturizer. Today I've got the Aveeno. Oh, I think I got a scratch. Even with the best of intentions, you can get a scratch. So that's just word to the wise that even if you have a blade that has a bit of a guard on it, that you need to be really careful. It does happen. Don't panic. Just remember the next few days are going to be all about barrier repair. And so I'm going to be coming in with my Aveeno Calm and Restore. I love this for a daytime moisturizer. It's super light. It's got oat in it, super calming. Just absolutely love it. It sits really well under my SPF and under makeup if I decide to wear a little bit of foundation. Now remember, when you're choosing an SPF after dermaplaning, you don't want to use a tinted SPF. There's always going to be an SPF, especially if you're heading out during the day. If at night, you know, just go ahead and do a nice moisturizing mask before you go to bed. But if you're heading out during the day and the subsequent days, you want to make sure you're dedicated to your SPF. Today I'm using Dr. Dennis Gross mineral sunscreen. Definitely use a mineral sunscreen. They're less irritating. And your face is going to be a little bit more susceptible to irritation after dermaplaning, so make sure you find a great dedicated mineral SPF that you enjoy. I'll link my video above on some recommendations that I have for mineral SPFs that I really like, but this is a good one. And remember that you want to make sure that you're really careful after dermaplaning. You don't want to use any highly exfoliating treatments for the next few days. I won't be using my tretinoin or any acid products. You've done a deep exfoliation. That's kind of enough for now. The focus for over the next few days is going to be barrier repair and using fragrance-free products. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I know it was pretty much of a cautionary tale about not using scalpels during an at-home dermaplaning session. I just don't feel like you can get the right angle and you can see well enough to do it safely. There's always that hazard of getting a more severe cut. So like I said, there's lots of options out there for guarded dermaplaning tools, and I highly recommend those versus using a scalpel. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Comment down below on your dermaplaning experiences. Have you ever tried it? What's your experience? I'd really like to know. I always love what you share in the comments about your experiences during all your skincare routines. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Comment, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Tag a friend who might be interested in this video. And thanks again for joining me. Bye everybody. Take good care. Bye.